Hello everybody, and just here and welcome back to Saihate no Paladin episode 3, in which we will probably start the journey towards the Rust Mountains. But before that, a little bit of housekeeping. My monitor broke, my second monitor, that is. So now I have a very junky setup with some sort of a OBS web view working on my laptop. So it might be scuffed a little because the preview also works at like 1 FPS. I'm not gonna be glancing here, I'm just gonna be glancing here and sometimes here. So I might get, turned around and mistaken and whatnot because I'm really not used to the setup. It was something that I figured really quickly because it won't be until Monday that I'm going to be able to buy myself a new monitor. Great. Thank you, government, for making every single Sunday free from work by decree. Now I can't buy shit. uh, but yeah, we'll follow that. Let's talk a little bit about episode 2. Episode 2 was, as I already said, very uneven. There was some decent pacing, there was some very fast pacing, and there was some extremely slow pacing. And it doesn't really sit that well with me, although I changed my mind a little bit maybe over time. Because I guess I kind of forgot that, all things considered, Saihate no Paladin tries to be decently realistic. Meaning that fight with Kernunos, for example, I expected some, big, flashy battle that takes half an episode. The truth is, it's not how most fights go, especially against someone as strong as Will. There is a clash, one side overpowers the other and stabs them in the chest, and that's the battle done. So I guess maybe I was a little bit too harsh on that episode in that regard, but I still do feel like that previous episode had a little bit too much, just maybe not senseless talking, because there was sense to it. There was a point to it. It wasn't pointless. It wasn't senseless. But there was a lot of talking to very little effect, really. The point has been made in way too many words than were needed to make the point. Uh, what were the points, though? Well, the points of that previous episode were, first of all, that Menel is now eligible to be a king of the forest, or forest lord, or whatever they are called, right? Because he took on himself the powers of the Lord of Oak. Or, yeah, the Lord of Oak. I think one of the two. There was Lord of Oak and Lord of Holy. Menel took on one of those powers, and then together with Will, they went towards another Lord, freed him from the clutches of Kernunos, and then Menel transferred that power into that Lord because it couldn't have been done via Wi-Fi. He needed to carry that thumbstick embedded in his hand. Before that, he also went through some trial to even be eligible for this power, and it seems like it's not going to leave him that easily. There is going to be that looming threat, quote unquote, of becoming a forest king of the forest, forest lords. What are they called? Oh, so yeah, lord, king, ruler, Oak no O and Hiragi no O. And Menel no O. After a couple of decades, centuries, millennia, however long elves, half elves in case of Menel, rather, live. There was a little bit of a talk about being a half elf. What does it entail, right? How Menel is always on that border between being a human and being an elf. He's not as long-lived as elves, but he's not as short-lived as humans. And there was some allusion to the potential fact that Menel might be going more and more towards the Fae side. He might be turning less and less human, more and more elven, which is interesting that it's even a transformation that can happen during one's lifetime. It's not necessarily entirely decided on birth, or even like earlier on conception. Menel expressed his potential desire to perhaps become a demon lord, yeah, sure, forest lord after Will passes, so that he can watch over Will's grave as a tree, and his kids and his family and his land and whatnot, etc., etc., etc. Which was sweet, which was cool. Menel, best boy so far. And then there was a lot of talking with Bagley and the Lord, whose name is, I forgot. Is he even listed? Ethelbald. Yeah, Lord Ethelbald. We were talking with them about something's fucky wacky in the Rust Mountains. There's the Kings of the Forest said that, hey, there's something, some dark flood coming from there. Beware, beware, beware. And now Will take it onto himself to check out what's up with the Rust Mountains and preferably prevent that from happening. And that's basically it. That's basically it. And now we are back in the town of the Torch Port. Are we? I think we are. I'm not sure, man. They are jumping places so much. I think we are in the Torchport, back in Will's town. Maybe. We'll see. What do I expect from today's episode? Probably some preparation for the journey to the Rust Mountains. We're probably gonna start looking for members of our team. I would assume Reistov is gonna join us. I wonder if Tonio, probably not. But I wonder if Robina is going to join the team. Probably not either. Robina and Tonio joined us as travel companions earlier in season 1 because Menel and Will were traveling in the same direction, so it was beneficial to them all. But neither Tonio nor Robina are particularly strong combatants, so they probably won't go on to the journey to the Rust Mountains. It's going to be Will, Menel, Reistov, and perhaps a couple more people that we've seen in the opening. Although they could have been dwarves who we are going to meet in the Rust Mountains, because we know that there were dwarves in the Rust Mountains, but they kinda all died out in the Great War with the demons, and the remaining dwarves don't really want to talk about what happened. There are remaining dwarves, even in Will's city, seemingly, but they really don't want to talk about what's going on, or rather what was going on back then, what brought them to the verge of extinction. Maybe a dwarf or two are actually going to join us. That'd be cool. We'll see. We'll see in this episode. So, to do that, you will of course need your subs to follow along with me. I'm going to need my sound to hear what's going on in the show. And I'm also going to have to ask you guys for your support. Support the channel monetarily on Patreon or YouTube, linked down below. Or not, share my content, spread the word. It costs you nothing and helps a lot. And with all of that out of the way, we can start watching Saihate no Paladin episode 3 in 3, 2, 1, go. You know something about them? So yeah, we do have some dwarves in the city. Agnar. Something tells me he's gonna join us on our travels. Or maybe we'll delegate one of his people to join us. We'll see. I'm still really not a fan of this grungy texture and cinematic grain. It's not even cinematic grain, it's like generated clouds in Photoshop just moving, wiggling randomly. I have no clue why they decided to do that to this opening. Because it really looks good. It doesn't need that film grain and grungy texture to hide any deficiencies. Right? I mean, it doesn't have any grain here, and it stands on its own. It works. It looks good. Another elf. I wonder when are we going to meet her? Like, sure, flashbacks to season 1, okay. Give some grungy texture to them to show that they are flashbacks, that they are the past. But maybe not in current things, current events. And then we have the non-humans. And that's dwarves. Yep. I mean, yeah, getting praise from blood, that counts for something. Courage. Yeah, we are absolutely getting at least a couple of dwarves for our team. Okay, so he even has some live-in maids and whatnot. Training with air. I mean, yeah, probably. Dwarves watching them. What you doing here? Spying on them. All that's missing is a blush on his cheeks. Yeah. Well, that was my water bottle I just kicked. He's taller than I thought. Right, he probably wanted to see some techniques that he himself didn't know, perhaps, or something. Of course, they are blacksmiths. Yeah, no need to be this reverent towards Will. Ha! Short notice. I'm sorry. Dwarven tea probably has more alcohol than spirit. Okay, well, sure. I mean, that is a goal. It's important to have goals in life, right? Right, and you have a good view on those mountains from the torch port. Well, funny you mention that. We kind of are heading towards Iron Mountains. Okay, so we are getting at least a little bit of story about the Iron Mountains. Demonic Storm. Yep. I wonder why hiking in English and not like die-o or something like that. Surrender? And what is your decision, O King of the Dwarves? Nope. We fight. There we go. Valakirka. I wonder if that's a dragon we're gonna have to fight? Hmm. Yeah. Your task is to continue the survival of our name, our country, our people. Makes sense. Makes perfect sense. Instead of everybody dying in that one fight, have at least some of them survive so that they can come back and retake their land, potentially. Right, a huge hit to their pride, isn't it? That they ran away with the women, children, and common folk instead of fighting like they wanted. Survivor's guilt. The dwarves are definitely holding their liquor better. A dragon is a dragon. Oh, hello, you. What's going on? Oh, trying to break out a fight. Gotcha. We have a member of our party for the Rust Mountains expedition. Well, you're gonna do. Yes, you are. There we go. Peaceful resolution. Ru. That's a very short name. I mean, dwarves are usually built like brick shit houses. Yep, I mean, Gracefield would gladly heal him. Fair. You can't lose your goddess's protection, right? That's a warlock's work, after all. Actually, Will is really more of a warlock than a paladin, isn't he? And by the time he's gone, Ru is going to fix the door. Right? And thus, the cult of Gracefield grows. Yep, he's fixing the door. Actually fixed them already. Dwarven magic or something? Where did he even get the tools? Or is he just using fists as a hammer? The Cowardly Dwarf. That's interesting. Rue the Cowardly Dwarf. Huh. Clink. It's not a toast if you don't clink your glasses. Now it's an interrogation. You got your katsudon? Now we can interrogate you. I mean, he is the lord of these lands. Yeah? Sure. Actually, yeah. You can achieve greatness if you want. That's a very interesting thought. Okay. He's gonna be William's squire. Gonna carry around his shield and everything. Alright. Dwarf has been procured. What's the commotion? Young master. Okay, is he like a crown prince or something? Certainly seems that way. Oh, because he's one of the very few dwarven children. So he's being coddled to death, essentially. Okay. I see what's going on. I see what's going on. Whomst. He's in the opening. Is he also joining? Straight out with it. He's not gonna get intimidated. Yeah, they are coddling him to death. And that is the question. What do you want to do? That very same question appeared recently in Ancient Magus Bride. That was a very nice piece of animation. There we go. Rue took the first step to being his own man. My man Rue. He got a little bit of moxie and now he's suddenly so talkative. Just spilling out all of his frustrations. That's great. Come on, Will. Do it. There we go. I mean, yeah, that's like a step up in his social position, isn't it? From just a refugee into the Thane of the Lord of these lands. Curious. Why would it be? Okay, a potentially dead man. I think that's what he means. As in, your survival isn't assured. If there is someone who can keep your young master safe, that's certainly gonna be Will. If for no other reason than his healing magic. Okay. That was a great episode. That was a great episode. Yeah. More of this, please. This was genuinely great. And I have run out of tea. Well, I guess more space on my desk. This is the Faraway Paladin that I remember. This was a really good episode. And it does seem like I was correct that we are going to be assembling our team piece by piece. I wonder if he's also going to join on the expedition. Was it him shown in the team in the opening? I don't know. The meaning of courage. Okay. Again, really, really, really cool episode. So how about we watch it again? Right? Shall we? Yes, we shall. Of course we shall. I really, really like this city. First of all, I really have a weakness for ruins. I love ruins. I really enjoy ruins. I really like cities built on like a mountain slope or on a cliff or something. And I really, really, really like all sorts of bridges, catwalks, and whatnot. Uh, did I talk about it in Saihate no Paladin or in some other series? It could have been some other series, I'm not sure, but I talked about how I usually liked to play medieval engineers and how I would always build cities on on mountain slopes. Same goes for Minecraft. My bases were always mountains carved out and with some additions built on top of them. And I really like the concept of like catwalks like that, or bridges between buildings, or perhaps like pedestrian paths on the roofs of some other buildings a level below. It's great. I just love it. So I really enjoy this catwalk, this staircase catwalk kind of thing. It really does look flimsy, like it would fall apart at any moment now, but that's besides the point. I really like the city. I would love to go there and just walk around there and, I don't know, grab myself some shish kebab or whatever and just walk around eating, admiring the view and whatnot. I also like how you can see that the city is slowly being rejuvenated, right? To the left, to the right side of the screen, we see buildings that have been maybe not painted, but they have like a fresh layer of mortar over them. There are those little roofs in the front, right? They are new. Well, not new, they are renewed, renovated. And then further to the left, you see ruins, houses that are in complete disrepair, completely falling apart, with bricks picking out, with all of the mortar fallen off, etc., etc. Because as the city fills up with people, they are going to be slowly renovating buildings further and further away from the center. I really like how you can actually see that, how you can see the progression. A year ago, when I said our city would support the new dwarf arrivals, it put many of the citizens on their guard. And yeah, we're gonna be talking to the dwarves. Yeah, that absolutely is... What's his face? Galares with them. It's Galares, Ru, Will, Menel, and Reistov. That's about the team I would have expected. Very interesting that there is no woman in their team. Right? After all, usually a team in a fantasy anime consists of the male main character and 5 to 12 women with him. This is an entirely male brigade, which makes sense considering the inspiration for the world, considering the times. Men were warriors, not women. So when you need to gather a bunch of warriors, want it or not, you gather a bunch of men with you. Women are, whatchamacallit, priestesses. For example, if you need a priestess to heal you, you will have a woman in your party. In this case, not needed because they have will. But yeah, cool, fresh, interesting, I like it. Also, really cool that Ru will seemingly get a proper armor. And yeah, that's Ru and Gelrace. So yeah, pretty much confirmed that this will be our team. Water, fire, wind, and trees came into existence. One aligned themselves with the unstable phenomena, choosing to live long lives alongside them. Definite lives and definite deaths, that was the humans. Wind, water, and trees, that was the elves. And rock and stone was the dwarves. Strong fighters, strong sense of honor, good craftsmen. What's that breakfast? Let me see it. Couple of strips of bacon, a bun or a breakfast roll or whatever you want to call it, and a bowl of soup, it would seem. I really like looking at food that's shown in anime, especially if that anime is influenced or based on Europe. Like European medieval times, European fantasy, European folklore, etc., etc. Because the creators of the show or the manga or the light novel might get many of things really well. Right? They can get the names of the deities really well. They can get the layouts of the cities really well, the architecture, the clothes, everything. But it is very rarely or that they get food well, or rather, they get the food well, but not the way it is served. Right? In Japan, your meal usually takes several dishes, right? You have a bowl with rice, you have a plate with an assortment of different things, you have another plate with some fresh greens, you have a bowl of miso soup, you have a bowl with some sauce, you have this, you have that. In Europe, as far as I'm concerned at least, I'd like to think of myself as pretty damn European, considering I was born and raised in Poland, and still live here, by the by. A meal is one plate. That's what you get for a meal. It's either soup, then you eat the soup and be happy about it, and then after the soup is eaten, you might have the second dish of the dinner, or yeah, of the dinner, right? Which might be something else, but you never have like 5 different bowls around you. So seeing this, that the breakfast is one plate of bread and bacon and one bowl of some sort of a soup, which probably mimics miso soup essentially. It's interesting. I really like looking at details like that. We don't really eat soup for breakfast either. I mean, I'm talking from my like Polish perspective. Maybe it's different in other European countries. I don't claim to have been everywhere, but soup, milk soup, what we call, so basically cereal. That's the only form of soup we eat for breakfast, unless it's leftovers from yesterday, maybe. I was wondering about Will's living arrangements, but it seems like a proper lord is wont to do, he does have indeed some not servants. I don't want to call them servants, and I don't think Will would want me to call them servants either. Employees, right? They take care of cooking, of the laundry, and everything else necessary. Fighting with just a. It's not even a sword, it's a mace. I would have liked to have the looks to match. I'm glad that it's a that it continues to be a thing. That Will would like to look a little bit, more dangerous. He would like to have a full beard and an angular jawline and angry eyes and bushy eyebrows and whatnot. But god damn it, even though he's all grown up now, he still looks like a twink, and he can't help that. I like it. And yeah, Menel makes a good point. You're approachable. Coward. Cowardly. What's the adjective for cowardice? Why did I forget this word? Cowardly. Cowardly. Cowardly dwarf. It's not something you see often. It's really not something you see often. It's cool. I like it. Also, that, reverence every dwarf is showing to Will because he saved them. Essentially, they're refugees from the Rust Mountains. They had nowhere to go. If they went anywhere else, they would probably have been met with prejudice from the local people. Not here. They can have their jobs, they can have their homes. They are all immensely grateful to Will. Also, the factor of honor being important to them, right? It's an honorable thing to honor your lord, so that's what they're doing. Will probably doesn't like that, though. He's very much like Naofumi in that regard. Grand Uncle Grendir. We came here to die, but we came here to die a good death. Not somewhere in exile, not living in poverty in the capital city. We came here to die with dignity. Being able to look at the Iron Mountains, perhaps still having the hope of retaking them. We wish to die with our eyes on our homeland. Yep. And the port city, Torchport City, has a very good view of the Iron Mountains, apparently. I'll protect all of you from injustice. Yeah, you're not gonna be just an hermit living somewhere under the bridge. No, we're gonna give you an ability to live well for however long you want to live. I do find it interesting, though, Where's that line? I am loath to do any type of work. That's like a lot. Meaning, it's just an offhand line, basically, that I don't want to do any type of work. I won't do any type of work. I loathe work. He would rather live in abject poverty, begging for food and whatnot, in some shack at the edge of the town, rather than work. He's a fighter. He fights or does nothing at all. He's not going to pick up being a blacksmith. He's not going to be carrying wood around because he's a warrior and it doesn't befit a warrior to carry wood around. Very interesting perspective and really seals the fact that the dwarves are actually like really honorable in that way to a fault. To a fault. Because he could have a good life here if he wanted to work, if he wanted to discard the fact that he's a warrior and turn into a carpenter, but he's not going to. He'd rather starve in poverty than subject himself to any other type of work than fighting. Very cool. 200 years ago, he did not excel in the martial arts, preferred to write, but he was a good and a just king. And then the demons arrived. We only change is who sells us weapons. Those demons can be trusted. Right, so it seems like the demons wanted some sort of an alliance with the dwarves, which is interesting. That they didn't just arrive here to eradicate all of the dwarves, but wanted their weapons and whatnot. That's cool. I'm just done watching episode 7 of Frieren, and the demons appeared in Frieren as well. And it really seems like the demons in Saihate no Paladin, though much more monstrous in looks, are much more human in behavior, and it's very very cool seeing that like not contrast, but two very different approaches to what are the demons in Saihate no Paladin and in Frieren. Yeah, not gonna trade with you lot. The dragon is coming. I would assume it is the dragon who destroyed this country, essentially. I wonder. We will draw the demons of the abyss here and slay them in the bowels of the earth. Probably a good plan, right? You know the area, it has plenty of choke points. You could probably defend yourself well for quite a long time in here. And you can always cave in some areas maybe to take the demons with the cave in. I don't know, there are possibilities. Inexperienced warriors and non-warrior folk, you run away. No, not run away. Sorry. You go on and fight a different fight. Fight for survival. Even if you lose your homeland, even if you drown in regret and disgrace that you weren't a warrior, that you were cowardly by running away, that you didn't stand honorably and fight and fought with the demons. You have a different battle to fight. Survive. Carry the pride of our people, carry the name of our people, carry our values. The country, the city, the country as a place might disappear tomorrow under the deluge of demons, but its values, its name, its people shall live on. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. And he just became the royal guard, right? Wanted to fight, wanted to die with honor, die in a fight, die in combat. But he was inexperienced, so he was set to go away with the women, with the children, with the regular folk. It's a huge hit to his pride. And even his child passed away. I overcame that time of chaos and lived 200 years, but so many died. Why is it me who survived? Why couldn't I have laid down my life for them? We can return home someday, we can fulfill the words of our king. That's what Will is going to strive for, not just for checking out what's the deal with the Rust Mountains, what's that, whatever the tree people talked about, but also to bring back the Dwarven city, the Dwarven kingdom. It would also be a very, very good trade partner for the Torch City, Torchport. And since it's a port city, there is money to be had. There's a lot of money to be had trading Dwarven weapons and armor. And just saying, you're not gonna have to rely solely on paper. Orvangr, the king of the Iron Country. He's just watching. Ru, the Cowardly Dwarf. Not cowardly. Coddled. Coddled. By Dwarven standards, seeing how he doesn't have grey hair yet, he's probably barely a teenager. So all of the refugees became his collective family, caring for him so much because he is the future. He's the future generation. He has to survive, right? But coddled him into this state of being a bumbling mess. He had no challenges ahead of him because he wasn't allowed to. He didn't have any, he didn't have to go hungry because other members of his clan would take their food away from their mouths and give it to him so that he can survive, he can live on. I can really empathize with Ru. I really can. I like him. Very unique, very cool, very interesting character with a lot of potential. Healing the father, getting some free food, and in the meantime, Ru just straight up fixed the door. For a moment, I thought that he might have made the door better somehow, but no, it seems like it looks like every other door in the inn. Don't curse yourself by saying you're weak and cowardly. Why don't you try being your own strongest supporter? Will the therapist. Will the therapist. We already have Shy show about a therapist superhero. Now we have Will being a dwarven therapist. That's cool. I like it. What are they eating here? Fried rice with some fish, chicken drumsticks, and a couple of potatoes, and some juice or wine, probably. Quick prayer, and kanpai. He's one of the migrants, of course, and he was exploring. All of the others in my clan are keeping busy, and I am not. Not because I'm lazy, but because they won't allow me to work. They won't allow me to take risks. Because they coddle me to death. Ah. You are remarkable. You do the things you desire to do. I can't. I don't have any desires of my own. Reminds me of Philomela from Ancient Magus Bride. Why don't you try it? Yeah? Why don't you also try being remarkable? Strength, you can get it from eating well and training. Dependability, well, that's just how you behave. If you behave in a dependable way, then you're dependable. You can become remarkable. That's another thing that really struck a chord with me here. That you can become remarkable. There's technically nothing really stopping you, right? You can, I know, pick up a guitar, train 12 hours a day, and become a remarkable guitar player. What's stopping you? Nothing. You can pick up a pencil, get one free from IKEA, get a piece of paper, and train drawing. What's stopping you? You can become an outstanding, remarkable artist one day, right? There is nothing stopping you there. It really strikes a chord with me because funny story. It's actually something that I talked about with my therapist during my recent therapy. That he tried to drive me to the conclusion that there isn't really much about my life that I cannot change. Right? I kind of if I'm stuck in place, it's because I want to be stuck in place. There isn't that many things that I don't have control over. And this is kind of repeating that point, and I'm gonna have to give it a little bit of thought. I'm really gonna have to give it a little bit of thought. What can I change about my life? Everything. But do I have the will to do that? That's a good question. The will, the motivation to exact that change, to execute your own will. Regardless, we're not talking about my therapy sessions, we're talking about Saihate no Paladin. Why don't you help me out as, say, something like a Thane? Okay, what exactly is a Thane? Thane is metropolitan city located on the northwestern side of the state of Maharashtra in India. That's probably not what I'm looking for, though. Thane. Maybe DuckDuckGo doesn't know the answer. How about Google? There we go. In Anglo-Saxon England, a man who held land granted by the king or by a military nobleman, ranking between an ordinary freeman and a hereditary noble. In Scotland, a man, often a chief of a clan, who held land from a Scottish king and ranked with an earl's son. Okay, so kinda sorta created nobility, right? Not nobility by birth, but nobility by designation. But in this context, it's more spoken as a role. Kind of reminds me of what was that word that I used? The guy who walks with the king, the knight, and carries his shield and helps him wear the armor and whatnot, right? Like this kind of a role. Or a student or an apprentice, right? That's what I get from context. I don't think Will actually gave Rue any sort of land, so he doesn't really work as a Thane, but whatever. There we go. Something that Rue decided for himself. I really thought initially that Rue is some sort of a crown prince, maybe. That's why everybody coddles him so much, because he's the last remaining thing linking them to the like the family line, the bloodline of the last king, right? So that when they retake the Rust Mountains, the Iron Mountains rather, Rue will become the king by right, by his blood right, or something along those lines. But no, I think they have genuinely just became his collective mother and are just coddling him because he's the youngest. He's the only one who is this young, more precisely. He's been raised with great care, perhaps too great. Really seems to be the case. Mm-hmm. Yeah, don't do that. Don't be the Thane. It's too dangerous. Don't do it. Stay here where it's safe. Don't try to go out of the safety. Stay here. We can coddle you. We can help you. We can feed you. Hmm. Yeah. I can almost hear like my mom saying, "Hey, don't go for that trip. It's too dangerous. Don't go there. It's raining. You're gonna get a cold." Etc. etc. It's really, really this. Legit. Cool. I love it. I love it. He's not cowardly because he's cowardly. He's cowardly because he's been beaten into cowardice. And now he bursts all of his grievances, all of his frustrations. I want to find what a warrior is. I want to find out what a courage is with my own hands. Yeah, how can I call myself a warrior? What can I know about being a warrior if I never face any danger, if I never take my own steps? Am I even am I even a dwarf? Aren't we dwarves proud, noble people, proud with their own fighting and whatnot? Who am I then? I haven't fought anybody. I can barely walk on my own because you take me everywhere with you. I have to slip out and watch Will training in secret to get some feeling, a little bit of a whiff of combat. How can I call myself a dwarf? And there we go. Right here, right now, make me your Thane. Interesting how Will's hands aren't that much smaller than Ru's. As the knight he serves, I will hear what you have to say. As of today, you are a dead man to me. I still wonder what he means by that. Like, sure, okay, you entrusted your loyalty to someone else, so you must be prepared to lay down your life for him. So potentially you will, like, legit be a dead man eventually. But that doesn't seem to be the meaning here. I'm not sure. There we go. New team member has been procured. Ah, welcome, welcome 60 FPS preview. That's much better than my 1 FPS preview on my laptop. Oh boy. Oh boy. It's raining! Oh, that's cool. Regardless, really cool episode. This really was the best episode so far. I had some issues with episode 1 about, trying to find myself. Where are we? What are we doing? What's going on? What's the deal with what? Episode 2 had fairly uneven pacing. There was a lot of jumping from one place to another. It was confusing at times, even. This episode was just good. It really was just good. It had good pacing, it had very good storytelling. I wasn't confused even for a moment. It was coherent from beginning to end. Great job. Honestly, good episode. More of this. More of this. I really like the portrayal of dwarves here. They are kind of sort of standard fantasy dwarves, but not entirely. They are much more focused on that honor, on that, dying with honor and whatnot. Kind of inspired by Vikings as they are portrayed in fantasy stories. It's a cool, nice little. They aren't completely detached from the classic portrayal of a dwarf, but they are kind of shifted around, and that's cool. That's cool. They aren't just a walking stereotype of everybody has a beard and has an axe and likes fighting and drinking. No, they are much more closer to the rest of the humans, or to humans rather. Cool. Good episode. Good dwarves. Good Uru. I enjoy him as a character. I can't wait to see more of him. He's going to be a joy to see on the screen, I feel. Okay, I think we can end this episode with that, but you guys, you tell me, what did you think of this episode? Tell me all about it in the comments down below. What did you think of this episode, of my reaction, my theories, stuff like that? No spoilers, please. Spoilers can go to my Discord here, also in the description below. There's a Saihate no Paladin channel that you can utilize for that. Like this video if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't, but tell me why so I can improve. Subscribe to the channel to be notified of future releases of not only Saihate no Paladin, but also other shows like Magia Record, Freeran, Shangri-La Frontier, Helk, Shield Hero, etc., Shy, and so on. I also stream sometimes, so click the bell to be notified of when I go live. Support the channel if you want monetarily on Patreon, linked down below, where for $10 a month you get early access to non-seasonal shows like Magia Record, and for just $1 you get a role on the Discord and a place in the credits. You can also support me on YouTube itself via memberships, super chats, super thanks, stuff like that. And if you don't want to, you don't have to. Share my content, spread the word. It costs you absolutely nothing and helps the channel a lot. And now, with all of that out of the way, that's gonna be it from me for today. So as always, you guys do the good stuff, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. Cheers! And here's my wonderful Patreons: QB Without a Net, The Couple Survivor, Zayren, Acomancer, David, Dr. Ward, Marshik, Eli, Fassel, and Hans Peter. And you can join them if you want, and you don't have to be a dwarf to do that.